their storm. Jesus got up in a very elegant way, merely says, peace, be still. Isn't it crazy that for all your textbook problems, Jesus has a 3-word answer? Peace, be still.
All right.
I don't care how much you talked about it. I don't care how much you complained about it. Jesus has just 3 words. Peace, be still.
Yeah.
I wish I had a witness in here before I take my seat. Aren't you glad that just 2,000 years later, he's still speaking to storms? Aren't you glad 2,000 years later, he's still talking to noisy situations? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he's still shaking darkness into the light? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he is still reaching and grabbing folks from the guttermost and lifting them to the uttermost? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he's still saving folk? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he still can take a drunkard and make him into a deacon? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he can still take a trickster and make him a trustee? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he can take a pimp and make him a preacher? Aren't you glad that still 2,000 years later, he can find a whoremonger and make her a president of a college or a leader of a university? Aren't you glad that 2,000 years later, he's still speaking to storms? And I came to talk to 2 or 3 of you here this afternoon. I came to let you know that God is not quiet about what you're going through. I came to let you know that he does care about where you are. I came to let you know that although it does not feel like he has your back, God is moving in the silence. Why don't you grab somebody's hand and look them dead in the eye and tell them he still speaks to storms? There's somebody in here that knows what I'm talking about. He still speaks to storms. Some of y'all can say, he spoke to me as early as this morning. I rolled out of bed and didn't feel my best, but I came here out of great misery and stress, but he still speaks to my storm. Anybody ever been lied on? Anybody ever been lied about and you did not think you would make it? But aren't you glad that he still speaks to storm?
Come on now. Martin King says, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in moments of challenge and controversy. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands when there is conflict and controversy. And so those are my words to you, that as long as you're in the church and on this side of the shore, everything gonna be peaceful. When you're in the sanctuary, everything is great. You feel powerful during the service. But when you go to work the next Monday morning, somehow the power just don't feel the same. And we know it to be true, because as soon as a lie floats around about you, you're ready to give up. You're ready to throw in the towel. I came to tell you, though, that a lie will travel the world 1,000 times while the truth is still putting on its shoes. Amen. And the truth is, my brothers and sisters, God is still speaking. Amen. Don't you know that he's way too big to be confined between Genesis and Revelation? Amen. But when you close the Bible, you're not closing the mouth of God. Aren't you glad he's still speaking? Yeah. Beyond the pages of Revelation, he's writing scriptures on your heart right now. There's somebody in here going to leave today and change somebody's life in some of the words they heard here today, because he's still writing chapters and verses on the manuscript of your heart. Let us stand.
Yes, he's able. He's able. He's able.
Yes, yes, yes.
He's able.
God is able to do
Yes, oh God.
just what he said.
Yes,
Yes, yes, yes.
Hallelujah. It's gonna fulfill
hallelujah.
every promise. Much to you.
Yes, oh God.
Don't give up on God,
Yes, yes.
and he won't give up
Yes,
on you.
oh God.
He's able.
Yes.